Oh, nice. Okay, I'll shut up. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, so I guess I'll start the class now. So the first lesson for today is called inviting everyone to the party. So during an attack, you want as many pieces uh, as possible to uh, come over to the attack. Because you'll be using them for sacrifices, for controlling space. Um, so you'll need a lot of pieces if you want to attack your opponent. So that means that when you're preparing for an attack, or even during the attack, you want to you sometimes will have to make moves that will seem strange at first, but they are meant to bring your own pieces to the attack. So right now in this position, uh, the pieces are equal right now, while and black has a black knight, and white has a bishop. So right now it seems like white has the advantage because his pieces are more forward, and and especially his bishop. The white bishop is in the middle of the board and is controlling a lot of a lot of the diagonals. And also the king and rook, the queen and rook, they're also in control of the open file. So this attack So this position seems like seems good for white. However, black does have some attacking chances because of his or her because of black's queen, which is very forward, and black's knight, which can move to potentially move to many squares like e3 and b4. So in this position, there's one piece, black has one piece that's not really doing anything, and that is the rook. So what are some ways, you can unmute your mic. What are some ways to that black can try to bring the rook out in this position?
Rook to d6.
Rook takes d6. Well, it's taking the bishop. So while it does seem like it would create, well, it would try to do something. After white takes the rook, now he has a passed pawn, which isn't really good, and black's pieces, so the queen and the knight, they're not really, they're not enough to attack the white king. So instead, what black did in this position was that he moved his king to h7. So this move seems like seems very strange at first, but it's actually very important. So does anyone see why moving the king to h7 would allow this rook to develop? One thing that moving the king to h7 does is that it opens up, it allows the rook to move to h8. And the reason why moving to h8 is important is because now notice that black, while black, these pieces are all blocking the files. The H file isn't blocked at all right now. So if black moves rook h8 now, the rook will have control of the H file and be allowed to potentially attack the h2 pawn or move to h5 and attack and move to f5. And that's what happens. So after king h7, black plays queen c5. Now an alternative to queen c5 is to just trade queens, so queen c2. And then afterwards, the queen has to take, and then the rook takes, and then black can play f6 in this position to try and weaken this bishop by attacking the e5 pawn. So the game would continue after the queen goes to c2 and forces a queen trade, but instead white plays queen c5. So then black plays king g6, which opens up the file for the rook now. And then white plays h4. So this move is so that white controls more space, and also because now after the rook moves to h8, it can't attack the h2 pawn anymore. So it tries. Wait, could you repeat that?
Queen G3.
Queen G3. Let's see. So after Queen G3, so Queen G3, it looks good because Black gets. It looks like Black gets a pawn, but there is actually something that White can do in this position to punish Black for taking the pawn. So does anyone see the tactic in this position for White?
Queen to C4.
Queen C4. It would allow White Black to take the queen on C4, so with his pawn. But there's something else that White can do.
G1.
Yeah, so after Rook G1, now the queen's pinned to the king and Black loses the queen. So instead, what Black does is to just move his rook to H8. And then, so White right now plays A3. So he wants to prevent the knight from moving to B4 because one of the things that Black could do in this position is to move his knight to B4 and potentially, if the queen went away, maybe knight C2 or maybe just move his queen or rook to just attack the second rank. So White plays A3, then rook H5, queen G1, and then king H7. Because now that the king is on G6, it is slightly weakened. So then Black plays his king back now that the rook is out. And then rook D1, attacking the queen. And then, so right now, White realizes that Black's rook is going to come out and potentially attack the White king. So then White is trying to prepare for this by moving its pieces to more defensive positions. So after rook d2, then rook f5, and now this rook is out of its square on d8. So whereas before the rook on d8 couldn't really move anywhere, now the rook on f5, it can move to f3, and it also controls the f file. So one thing that Black can do is to move f6 and open it up and weaken this bishop, or just move his rook to f3 and then after g4, then
Why not moving the queen to F3?
So the queen to f3. So that's because the queen is in a pretty good spot right now, because White can't really attack the queen right now, and the queen is controlling the inside of White's castle, and also because if the queen goes to f3, even though Black will have a battery, so a queen and a rook both on the same file. The only thing that Black can do is to move their queen down to f1, check, And if white moves his queen to h2 before that, then after queen f1 check, wait, so let me, okay. So if black moves queen f2, f3, and then queen h2, the queen on f3 can't really do anything right now.
How about
And
move to F1?
rook, queen f1, you mean? Yeah, so the queen goes to f1, but then the king goes to a2. And right now, black does have a lot of
C4.
control. Queen c4. Then, let's see. The only thing for black to do is here. And then, yeah, this position is still, well, it's not as bad as it could be. Because now the queen and the rook are connected and they're controlling, they're able to defend the white king. So although this position is still pretty bad for white right now, because white's pieces, like the queen and the bishop, they're not really doing much. They're not attacking black. They're just defending. And black's queen and rook and knight are all very active, and they can potentially attack the white king. For example, knight c3 maybe, a check. Also, and then king b2. And now this knight is in a pretty good position. Or another thing that white can do, black can do, is to move, let's say, the queen to g4 or e4, and then in the future, black can move rook f3 and take control of the third rank. And that's good because these three pawns are very weak because there aren't any pawns on the second rank, so now they can't be defended by other pawns. So queen c3 is an option, but well, right now white plays g4, so white wants to try and attack black's king by moving the pawns down and weaken black's castle. So right now, black moves rook f4, so attacking this pawn, these two pawns, which are very weak because there isn't any pawns behind them, and also to prevent g4, g5, because then this pawn will be taken. So then white plays queen b1 check, so just trying to move the queen around and try to get a more aggressive position. And right now, white moves g5 because to try and become more aggressive. So what black can potentially do is to take this h4 pawn. Then let's see. So right now, something that white can do is to move g6. And right now, black can't take because after f takes g6 and queen takes. Actually, no, queen takes isn't good because of h1, rook h1. So let's see, why would white allow rook takes g4? Another reason I can see is because Oh yeah, I see. So because of rook c2, and now white is threatening to move down to c8 and checkmate black. So right now, black has to defend against this. So for example, knight b6, and now black isn't really attacking white anymore, and now white, even though white lost a pawn, white's position is more aggressive. So instead, black chooses to just attack the chooses to move b4 and attack white. So right now, after rook d3, then white moves knight c3. So does anyone see what will happen if black just takes if black takes knight on c3? So if white takes the knight on c3, so here, what can black do in this position?
Rook to f1.
Not rook f1, because then the queen will take on f1. And then
Queen a3.
do you mean in this position or the previous one? So
The
in
previous
this,
one.
yeah, so in the previous position, let's see, the rook was here. Yeah, so queen takes a3. So now it checks the white king. White's forced to play queen a2, and then what? So now what can black do?
Rook f1.
Yeah, so rook f1, and then well, now it's going to be checkmate in a few moves. Well, 2 moves. So rook d1, and then rook takes d1, checkmate. So right now, black is attacking white right now, and making use of the fact that white's king is in a very weak state with only 2 pawns, and 2 pawns defending the king. So right now, white plays bishop takes b4, and now there's actually a tactic that now black can force a checkmate in this position. So does anyone see how black can do that?
Rook f1.
Rook f1. So that is a good move, because now after bishop takes c3, and white can't play queen takes f1 because of queen a2 checkmate. So instead, white plays bishop takes c3, then rook takes b1, and then king takes, And this position is not very good for white because even though white has a rook, a bishop, and a pawn in exchange for a queen, this queen is very active, and black's pawns, especially these two pawns, they're very advanced, so they're very weak. And the black queen can potentially, let's say, move here and attacks these pawns. But there's a way to force a checkmate in this position. So you can keep looking. And remember to look at all the yeah, and then after queen a2, queen takes a2, and then what?
Rook F1.
Yeah, then rook f1, well, queen b1, and rook takes b1, checkmate. So that's a way. So that's one way that black. So if you compare this position to the position, the starting position, or the initial position, while in this position, black's rook was very weak. After moving the king to h7 and then developing the rook, then black was able to use this rook in his attack against white, and eventually it allowed black was able to use his rook to checkmate the white king. So the next idea is the king's gambit. So the king's gambit is an opening where after e4 and e5, white plays f4. So this pawn move. So what are some of the weaknesses of this pawn move? So does anyone see some?
It opens up the king.
Yeah, so it opens up the king, and that's the main reason why people don't really play this move, is because after f4, then this diagonal is opened, and also after the king castles, if the king castles kingside, then this diagonal is opened for the bishop. So this pawn move is often seen as a very aggressive move, because even though it weakens the white king, it also weakens black's center, because now after f4, and if e takes f4, so here after e takes f4, now white has a pawn in the center and can potentially move d4 and then have two pawns in the center, while black can only have one pawn in the center. So the king's gambit is a very aggressive opening, and people play it because it allows them to attack a lot with their center. It allows white to control the center and attack it in exchange for weakening the king. So I'll be looking at only e takes f4, and maybe we can look at alternatives if we have time. But after e takes f4, then white plays knight f3, and then d5. So right now, black wants to, after taking the pawn on f4, black wants to prevent white from taking control of the center, because if white controls the center, then white can attack the king, and then black can potentially lose uh, because they don't have control of the center. So d5 attacks this pawn and also develops this bishop. So then e takes d5, and then knight f6, developing because this pawn isn't really going anywhere. And if white tries to defend it with c4, then black can just play something like d5 and attacks this pawn. So rather than doing that, black wants to develop, because another reason why the King's Gambit is popular or is played by many people is because it allows black to attack, it allows white to develop more quickly. And so in this position, after here, even though black has a lot of potential open, a lot of potential developments, black will have to eventually take this pawn, let's say with the queen, and then he'll have to waste a move taking this pawn, which will allow white to get ahead in development. So bishop c4, developing the bishop, and also, I guess, preventing or giving himself the option to recapture with the bishop in the future if maybe the knight takes. So then the knight takes, and then castles. And then bishop e7, so black is still developing, but right now, notice that this rook is on an open file, so there isn't any white pawn in front of this rook. So another thing that white can do is to use this rook to attack the f8 file, or even in the future after this knight moves away to maybe e5 or something, move this rook up and then to h3. Well, this is in the future. So white can use this rook to attack the black king. So then white moves d4, so controlling the center and opening up this bishop. And then black castles. So this is kind of, it's not such a good move because rather than doing that, black should have developed his pieces, his minor pieces, because right now after castling, so after e4, then castling, so after castling, now white has 3 developed pieces and the center versus black's bishop and knight. And this will allow white to get an advantage and attack earlier. So then after bishop takes and then the queen takes, then bishop takes f4, then black plays c6. So this is another not so good move because it wastes a move, moving a pawn, while black still hasn't developed the bishop or the knight yet, and also because it doesn't really control the center. So I guess so. Another thing that black can do sometimes is to just play c5 and then take control of the center. Actually, no, c5 is what black actually played. Let's see. So I guess we'll see why c5 isn't good in the future. But rather than moving c5, black should have either developed or protected the queen by retreating it. So instead, after c5, knight c3, queen c4, and queen e1. So right now, knight c3, it develops the knight, and also forces black to waste another move, not developing the knight and bishop. And then, after queen e1, this attacks the bishop, and also allows the queen to move to g3 in the future, or maybe e4. Okay, so after bishop f6, so right now, white has developed the two knights, the bishop and the rook, and this queen is also, I guess, developed because it can move to g3 or e4. And meanwhile, black only has the queen and the bishop developed. So right now, white is ahead in development, so white can attack the king faster. So then after bishop f6 and then bishop d6, then black takes a pawn back, or takes a pawn on d4, checking the king, and then after the knight takes, now this pawn is weakened. So even though black is ahead by a pawn right now, this pawn will probably be taken in the future because it's isolated and it's very advanced. So right now, in this position, white's ahead in development because of the open file for the rook. White's also attacking this rook right now, and white's knight can move to e4 in the future. Let's see. So, so that was one way to do it. So instead, white moves king h1. Okay, so right now, white's ahead in development, but black has an extra pawn. So now the deciding factor in who will win is whether white is good at attacking or not, or whether white's attack will succeed or not. So after rook d8, bishop knight e4, then f5. So it's attacking this knight, and now after the knight moves, this bishop is being attacked by the rook again. And then queen h4. So right now, white's threatening to attack this rook, but white is also moving the queen into an aggressive position. So right now, white can move potentially knight g5, knight fg5, opening up this file, and also threatening queen takes g7 or rook f7. Let's see, so attacking these two squares. So then after knight c6, then white actually has. So right now white has an interesting move. So white moves knight e5. So right now, white has a pretty. So this move is a very strange move, but it actually also serves a purpose. So right now, after let's say bishop takes e5, well then, yeah, knight f6, check, and then attacking, and then after let's say bishop takes, then queen takes c4, and then white gets an extra queen. So even though this move looks very dangerous, it actually serves a purpose. And of course, after knight takes c5, then queen takes d8, getting a rook for a knight. So right now, let's see. So here, and then bishop takes, queen takes, king h8, and then bishop takes c5. Let's see. So right now, white just has a queen in exchange for a knight and a bishop. So white has a pretty well. White's winning right now. White's ahead in material and can use that material to win the game. So the game continued with like so, knight e5. So right now, even though the bishop pairs are pretty powerful, white's queen is still a very powerful piece, and because this position is open, so the rooks can become more active and potentially take control of open files, such as moving rook to e1 and then controlling the e file, or rook to d1 and controlling the d file. So white's position isn't a very, black's not in a very good position right now, because he lost the queen in exchange for the two bishops. And then, well, this game's over. The queen can just aggressively attack black, and there isn't much that black can do to defend. So that was what happens. That was one of the possibilities after the knight takes. I mean, after f takes e takes f4. So after e takes f4, then white will can potentially get ahead in development and controls the center. So instead, so there isn't really much time left, so I guess I'll just look at some of the alternatives. So after e4, something else that black can do is to play d5. So this just is another aggressive move by black, because now black's pawn is challenging the center, and black is also trying to take control of the center, or to get rid of this pawn, and then potentially develop move c5, and then knight e6, and take control of the center. And then, so after the normal move for white is e takes d5. So if white plays bishop takes e5. What's something that black can do in this?
Queen h4.
Yeah, so queen h4. Let's see. I guess, well, if white plays here, then black plays queen takes e4. Forking this king and rook. And let's say after here, then just takes a rook and attacking this knight. So that's not. So instead, white will play e takes d4, e takes d5, and then c6. So another thing that white can do. So black wants white to take the c6 pawn because after knight takes c6, then black can potentially get ahead in development by moving bishop c5 or g6 and then bishop b7 and then attacks the white king side. So let's see. So instead, white can just move knight c3 because white has already gotten a pawn. So if black takes back, white won't have lost material. And then e takes f4. So now e takes f4 is aggressive because it opens up the e file and also takes control of these two squares. So I guess it's also threatening queen h4. So then knight f3, bishop d6. So now black wants to use this pawn in an attack. d4 and then knight e7. So in this position, even though white has his two knights out and attacking the center, black has an advanced f4 pawn, which can potentially cause problems for white in the king side, and also black can try to play, let's say c takes d5 or c5, and just try to undermine white's center. And additionally, because white isn't ahead in development anymore, both sides have an equal chance of attacking each other and potentially winning. So I guess now you can move on to your games.